Hello students, welcome to Sunya IAS. So welcome again here in another session of CSAT, and today we are going to discuss the topic of percentage. And as you all know, percentage is a very important topic for CSAT examination. Almost every year there are 3 to 4 questions being asked from just the topic of percentage, and that's why undoubtedly there will be a lot of questions that we'll have to discuss today. And so for that reason, we have divided this discussion into 2 parts. So today we'll be covering the part 1, and then in the next video we'll be covering part 2 just for the questions of percentage. So what we are doing is we are not doing things bulky for you, but we have divided them such that you can learn them easily without any pressure, and you give ample amount of time on those topics in which guaranteed you are going to get some questions. So the basic idea of our course on YouTube is that you are able to conquer your CSAT phobia, and if there is anything left, we are online as well. So just have a talk with us. And now we are going to discuss the topic of percentage. This is nothing but, just a jhalak of our offline and online course. So the topic of percentage has been discussed in great detail there, and today, as the shortage of time is there, we cannot go in that depth. But I'll give you some basics so that you can understand the basic fundas which we are going to apply in this particular topic. So what percentage actually is, we have been hearing that term from so long, since we were children in class 1, and even before that, when we have some examination, we get some score, and then in the final part of the year you get the mark sheet on which the percentage is written. So what percentage actually is that suppose there is an examination in which 100 marks are the total marks, and out of these 100 marks you are able to score only 56 marks. What we are trying to do is just representing this 56 marks in terms of a percent. So what we'll do is simply divide this 56 with the total marks of 100, and we get a fraction. That fraction will be nothing but 56 by 100. Now what we have to do is to convert this fraction into a percentage, and in order to convert any fraction into a percent, we just multiply it by 100. And so in terms of percentage, the marks will be 56%. So that is the basic idea of percentage, that out of the total marks were there, you are able to score 56% of the total marks. You can also talk about it in terms of fraction, that would be 56 by 100. You can further simplify it, no doubt, but now we'll have some more examples to discuss that. Suppose similarly we have a class of 50 students, and among those 50 students, 20 are girls and remaining 30 are boys. So can we represent girls and boys in terms of a percentage? Yes, we can do that. Simply, you know that girls are how much in number? 20 divided by total students, which are 50. Similarly, the fraction of boys would be 30 divided by 50. If you want to represent this in terms of a percent, you just multiply this figure with 100. And so after all cancellations, you will get girls as 40% and the boys as 60% in the classroom. So that is the basic idea of percentage, right? Now if I tell you that suppose there are total 500 balls kept somewhere, and you are given the information that out of these 50 balls, 30% are red, remaining 50% are blue, and the left ones, that is 20%, are yellow. So can you tell me the number of balls? So in order to solve such a kind of a statement or a problem, what we have to do is just simply convert this percentage into a decimal. So what is this? It is 30%. Since it is percent, I can express it in terms of upon 100. Similarly, you can convert this 50% into 50 upon 100. this 20% you can represent as 20 upon 100. And if you want to simply convert it in form of decimals, you will get a 0.3 here, 0.5 here, and a 0.2 here. And now you know that out of these 400 balls, 30% are red. I can rephrase this statement as that 30% of 500 balls are red. So if we want to find the number of red balls, they are going to be nothing but 30% of 500. You know that 30% can also be represented like this, 0.3. And off is nothing but another way of saying multiplication. And so you will get the total number of balls as, on multiplication you will get 150. Right? So this is the way of getting the number of balls. So here I found the number of red balls. Similarly, you can also find the number of blue balls, which is going to be nothing but 0.5 into 500. That is going to be 250. Similarly, here you will get 0.2 into 500, and that will be equal to simply 100. Okay, so that is the basic idea of percent. And based on that idea, we'll solve some questions. Then we'll move on. I'll tell you a few basics again, and then we'll move on with the further questions. So that will be the way of proceeding with them. Since it is a very important topic, since there are a lot of questions, please pay great attention, because there is a chance that you might find similar questions again in the CSAT examination. So stay tuned and follow me. So here we have a question. Let me just read it. When a runner was crossing the 12-kilometer mark, she was informed that she has completed only 80% of the race. Then, how many kilometers was the runner supposed to run in this event? So, what is going on in this question is that if you understand the scenario is there is some race going on, there is an athlete, and when that athlete is covering 12 kilometers of the race, then she is told by some people that she has covered actually 80% of the race. Okay, that is the basic idea. Let me draw a small diagram, very simple diagram, just to represent the above situation. So let's say this is the length of the race, this is the starting point, and this is the end point. Okay, and let us assume this length to be d, distance d. So this is what we have to find, how many kilometers was the runner supposed to run in this event. Actually the total length of the race is being asked, so we have to find the value of d. Now how much that person has actually completed? So she has completed up to here, she has completed 12 kilometers, right? And she is told that this 12 kilometers is nothing but the 80% of total distance, that is d. This is another way of saying it. So basically what we have to say here is that 80% of d, that is the total distance, is equal to 12. We can further simplify this 80% as what? 0.8. Very correct. So this is the way we have to follow. Whenever you see 80%, just think in mind 0.8, nothing else. So 0.8 of is nothing but multiplication. D is equal to 12. You have to just send this 0.8 here in the division. You will get d is equal to 12 divided by 0.8. You simplify it. Further, you will get the value of d to be 15 kilometers. So this was a very simple question being asked by the UPSC in 2019. And this is such a question which you can easily do. There is no point of missing such a question. Okay. Moving on the same lines, we have yet another question, which is actually a very simple question. And I think you might have done this question even before also. The basic idea here is that there are two students, student A and student B. And their marks are given in each of the subjects. And the total marks for that paper are also given for student A also and student B also. What we have to find the aggregate percentage marks, the difference between the aggregate percentage marks of both the students. So you know the aggregate percentage marks. So these are the marks which fortunately or unfortunately you receive at the end of the term, at the end of the school, at the end of the semester. So how much you have scored out of the total maximum marks is the aggregate percentage marks. So simply there is nothing much about the calculation. if you talk about student A, so his aggregate percentage marks would be how much? Sum of his total marks, all the marks which he scored 60 in English, then 70 in psychology, in history he scored 50, and further in Sanskrit he scored 30. Out of the total marks, how much are the total marks? 100, 100, 150, that sums up to 350. These are the total marks, right? And so, if we multiply this figure with 100, we'll get the answer in terms of a percentage. Similarly, if we talk about B, so here we have candidate B. Student B is actually scoring how much? So we have to find percentage marks of B. They are nothing but 80, 70, 60 and 15. We'll just add all of them. 80 plus 70 plus 60 plus 15 divided by total marks. Now pay attention here. Here the maximum marks and maximum marks are not the same. So if you do the mistake, if you do the folly of just writing 350 here also, you will be doomed. That's why it is important that you read all the parts of the question very carefully. So here if you total the maximum marks, here you will get 375 actually as the total. Okay, 150 plus 100 plus 100 plus 25, that would be basically 375. And so here the denominator is going to be 375. You have to just multiply with 100. And now you have to calculate the value which we are getting and how much the value comes out to be. So here you will get 60% after all final calculation. In both of the cases, you will actually find 60% here also and 60% here also. So both of the students, student A and student B, are actually scoring the same aggregate percentage. What is being asked in the question? The difference in their percentages, since they are having the same percentage, difference is going to be a 0. So option number D is the correct option in this case. Okay, so it was a pretty easy question which you can easily do. No basic concept, nothing is required. This is just a test of what you have done in your school. Okay, so now we'll move on to one more basic concept of the percentage topic, is that percentage increase and percentage decrease. Okay, so suppose initially you have rupees 100 with you and I give you 10 rupees more. What is the percentage increase? Percentage increase would be nothing but the increment amount. So you have increased the amount by 10 divided by the original amount, which was 100, into 100. Simply the answer will be 10%. So percentage increase is nothing but increase divided by original amount into 100. Okay, similarly you can have a decrease also. You have rupees 100 with you, I take rupees 10 from you, and in that case you are left with rupees 90 only. So what is the percentage decrease in this case? Percentage decrease is going to be how much? The decrease is of 10%. Decrease is of 10. So I'll write 10 divided by original amount, that is 100, into 100. The decrease is also 10%. And so this formula can be also written as percentage decrease as is nothing about the amount of decrease divided by original amount into 100. That is the basic idea. These are the basics. Now moving on one step ahead. Suppose I say that rupees 100 you have initially with you. What if this amount increase by 10%? What you have to do is simply understand the fact that if this amount increases by 10%, it will be equal to the original amount which was already there plus some increase would be there. The increase is how much? 10% of the original amount. So you will write 10% of 100, and so this amount is 100 from initially. this will become 0.1 into 100, ultimately it will become 10, and you'll get the final amount at 110. This is one long way of saying the same thing. If something is increasing by 10%, what is happening here? Initial amount is this, further you are increasing this much part, the final amount would be this. Now, let me tell you one very nice way of doing the same thing. If there is a 10% increase, we will just multiply this figure with 1.1 directly. And here also you are doing the same thing. You are having 100 here. If you take 100 common from this expression, you will have 100 bracket, you have 1 plus 10% of 1. So you have taken 100 common from all of it, and therefore you can also write it like this: 100 multiplied by, this will become 1 plus 0.1, that is 1.1. So in short, you can take this shorter method to find the increase directly. That is the way we are going to approach this particular question. Similarly, if the question would have said that it is not increase, it is actually a decrease. So let me write it again. So suppose you have rupees 100, and instead of increasing by 10%, I am decreasing by 10%. So how much the amount will be? It will be equal to the original amount minus some portion you are decreasing. How much the portion is? It is 10% of the original amount, that is 100. This will become nothing but 0.1 into 100. 100 minus 10, that is 90. This is the figure after decreasing its original amount by 10%. Also, what we can do here is we can just multiply this original amount by 0.9 and get this result 90 immediately. How did I do that? Why did I multiply with the 0.9? Just pay great attention here. So what we have here, again I am going to take 100 common, and therefore I will have 1 minus 10% of 1. What it is going to be? 100. 1 minus, it will become 0.1, and therefore you will have 100 into 0.9. So if you are able to figure out that if there is a 10% decrease, we are multiplying with 0.9. If there is a 10% increase, we are multiplying with 1.1. You have basically, been good with the whole lot of concepts going ahead in this examination, in this particular topic, right? Because percentage is something which is used as a basic in almost each of the every concept you are going to study for CSAT. So if you get this right at this moment, right now, then it would be the best for you. And even then, you're not able to, catch it up. So we have another plans. We have our offline system, online system, all we are going to have. So just pay attention to this part. Now, you've got the basic idea. If I say, if something is going to increase by 10%, you multiply with 1.1. If something is going to increase by 20%, you will multiply with 1.2 this time. If something is increasing by 50%, you will multiply it with 1.5. Similarly, if something is decreasing by this percent, if there is a decrease by 10%, you will multiply it with 0.9. If there is a decrease of 20%, you multiply it with 0.8. And then there is a decrease of 50%, you will multiply it with 0.5. That is the way of doing things which we are going to follow in this part of the discussion and in further ahead chapters also. So please, catch it up. Moving on, now we have to solve questions only. So we'll pay attention here. This is a question from 2021, and what is being said in this question is that the price of an article is decreased by 20%. Okay, so there was some article, let's say its price was rupees 100. Let's say it is decreased by 20%, then you will get some new price. Then the new price is increased by 25%. So what will be the net change in the price? It is being asked from you. Okay, so here what you can do is that you can assume the price to be rupees 100. We have to check how much decrease is going on here. So it is actually decreasing by 20%. I just showed you if there is a decrease by 20%, we'll multiply the value with 0.8. And so the new price is going to be 0.8 into 100, that is nothing but rupees 8. Right? Then after this first decrease, there is a further increase in price of 25%. There is a increase of 25%. In order to notify this increase of 25%, we'll write multiplication with 1.25. And if you multiply this figure by 1.25, you get 80 into 1.25, which is again rupees 100. Right? So what is the net change in the price in the two decreases and then increases? The net remains the same. Here initially 100 rupees, finally we also have 100 rupees. Then therefore we can say is that the net change in price is 0%. That is option number A is going to be the correct option in this case. Okay, so I hope this one was clear to you. Now we'll move on to the next question, and this is a really fresh question from 2022. And if you pay some attention here, it is kind of a repeat question. More of the lines of this question are repeated. So just read it again. What I am saying, the increase in the price of a certain item was 25%. Then the price was decreased by 20%, and then again increased by 10%. So if you pay attention, this initial part is just the same as in the earlier question. The only thing is that the order has been changed. Initially there was 20% decrease, then 25% increase. Here the order has been reversed, but the idea remains the same. Okay, so just pay attention, and then further there is a 10% increase. So same thing we are going to do again here. We'll assume the initial amount we have as rupees 100. Then there is a increase of 25%. So 25% increase, you can represent it like this, multiply by 1.25. The new price you will get would be nothing but rupees 125. After that, further there is a decrease of 20%. So 20% decrease. How do we signify that? That is signified in the form of multiplication with 0.8. And if you multiply 125 with 0.8, you will get the value of rupees 100, again just like in the previous question. Okay, so here to here there is no change absolutely. Finally, there is one last thing, and that thing is how much? 10% increase. So we are going to increase it with 10% again. So we'll multiply it with 1.1, and the final amount now you are going to get is rupees 110. So now what we have to find? We have to find the resultant increase in the price. What is the total increase in the price from 100 initially to 110? What is the total increase? So total increase is nothing but 110 minus 100, that is rupees 10. And now we have to express this in terms of percentage. So in terms of percentage, that would be 10 divided by the original amount into 100. And so it is going to be 10%. That is option number B is going to be the correct answer in this case. So here you can see one question with just a slight modification is being asked again by the UPSC, just to tell you the significance that percentage holds in the CSAT paper. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next topic ahead. And so look at this particular question, just have a good read. Now what we have to do in this question is that, as we do in all of the questions, understand the approach. This approach is really important for this part of the question. What is going on? First, we have to understand that what is the scenario played here. So there is an examination in which there are two candidates, A and B. And here actually A is scoring 20 more marks than B. Okay. So what is the second part? We write the information given to us in mathematical form. So we can say that A is actually scoring 20 more marks than B. So if score of B is this, score of A is this, A is going to be B plus 20. So this is the first equation we are getting. A is B plus 20. Now the second part says if B has scored 5% less marks than A. Now second part says B is scoring 5% less marks than A. How can we write that? If someone is scoring 5% less, how do you signify that? You signify that in terms of 1 minus 0.05. 5% I am representing like this. 0.05, that would be nothing but 0.95, just like we did earlier. Okay. And so here you will write 0.95 times A. So the score of B is nothing but 0.95 times A. Is it clear? So this is the way of writing the two equations. The first equation is pretty easy. Lekin the second equation here, if you follow our concept, the way we do things here at Sunya IAS, then we'll have this very short and sweet equation in place. Okay. What we have to do, we have to just find the value of B. Don't worry, just substitute this value of B here. You get a whole equation in terms of A, get the value of A, and then further we'll get the value of B. Okay, so that is the modus operandi of calculation. Let me just substitute the value here. You will get A is equal to 0.95 A plus 20. You send this figure in subtraction here. So 1 minus 0.95 will get net 0.05 A is equal to 20. A is nothing but 20 divided by 0.05. So we get rid of the decimal and we have 400 as the total marks scored by A. So now we have the score of A. We do not want to find the score of A. Okay, pay attention to that. Here he is using this dummy, right? This dummy to trick you so that you get 400 here and you take a 400 here. No, absolutely not. You have to just be clear what you have to find. Here we have to find the score of B. This is what we have to find. We do not have to fall for decoys like this. Okay, so B would be nothing but 0.95 into 400. Get the value as 380. And therefore, option number B is going to be the correct option in this case. Okay, so this was one more question for you. Now, we'll move on to the next question. Look at this question, and this might remind you of just the previous question we had. So UPSC is having very similar questions, just the name of the people are changed. So from A to B there is P and Q, and there is just minute changes in the data and so on. What we'll do, we'll just repeat the same process we did earlier. So P scored 40 marks more than Q, which means P is nothing but Q plus 40. If Q scored 10% less marks than P, so this is the first equation. Second equation says Q is scoring 10% less marks. So what did we use to write for 10% less? We actually did this 1 minus 0.1, that is 0.9. And so we'll multiply this value by 0.9, 0.9 times. This would be the second equation. Here what we have to find? We have to find the score of Q. Okay, so we'll just do the same thing again. Substitute the value of Q here. You get P is equal to 0.9P plus 40. Here we will get 0.1P equal to 40. Score of P is going to be 400. And we do not want the score of P. This is the decoy like earlier again. And now we want to find the value of Q. Q is nothing but 0.9 times P, that is 400. Get the value of Q as 360. And therefore the correct answer is going to be option number A, 360. Okay, so was it clear? It was a pretty simple question and repeated question. You might be lucky this time. You might get repeated questions from the things we are discussing even today, even now. So luck. Okay, so in this question, let us try to read this question and then figure out what we have to do. a student has to get 40 marks to pass. Okay, this is the thing people want to cross in CSAT also, the 33% barrier. Similarly, in this test also there is a 40% barrier. You have to score 45%, 40% marks to pass the exam. Suppose he gets 30 marks and fails by 30 marks, then what are the maximum marks in the examination? So if in order to clear the exam, you must get 40%. This guy here is getting 30 marks and he should get 30 more to pass. Okay, he fails by 30 marks. What does that mean? He is missing that boundary of passing marks by 30 marks. That is the idea. And then we have to find the total marks, maximum marks in the examination. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just assume the value of maximum marks. So let maximum marks are equal to, let's call them T, total marks. Okay, how much marks do you need to pass the exam? So passing marks would be 40% of T, that would be 0.4 T, right? And then further we are given the information that there is a student who is getting 30 marks, and if he might got have 30 marks more, so he's failing by 30 marks. अगर उसको 30 marks और मिले होते, would have been, passing. So if you add this 30 again, you will get the passing mark, and passing marks are 0.4 T. The basic idea of the question is that 0.4 T is equal to 60. If you solve this easy equation, you will get the value of T. So let me do that for you. So T is nothing but 60 divided by 0.4. Get rid of the decimal. We get the value of total marks as 150. Okay. So option number C here is the correct option. You are doing good. And this was a pretty easy question. These are the questions you must not miss at any cost. These are the very questions which will help you clear the cutoff like this guy. And please do not fall short like this guy here. Okay. I want you to be 30 marks above the cutoff, not below it. Okay, moving on. So we have this question number 8. Let us read and try to understand the scenario here. There is an order of 19,000 quantity of a particular product from a customer. The firm produces 1,000 quantity of that product every day, and out of which 5% are unfit for sale. In how many days will the order be completed? The basic idea here is there is a company which manufactures some particular good, and there is a customer who wants to purchase how much? 19,000 of such goods. Now the factory is producing 1,000 goods per day, but out of those 1,000, only some are good, 5% are not good for sale. So 5% are unfit. So if 5% are unfit, how much are good? So that would be nothing but 100 minus 5. That is 95% of the total goods are actually in nice quality, which will get a tick mark from the customer. Correct? And so what is the effective number of goods which the factory is producing each day? So number of goods of okay quality produced each day are going to be nothing but 95% of the total production of the day, that is 1,000. You can write it like this, 0.95 into 1,000 will get 950 as the number of goods which are of good quality and that are produced every day. That is the first part of the question. Now what we have to find here is that what is the number of days in which the order will be complete. So the total order is of 19,000 goods. Each day you are producing only 950 goods. What will be the number of days? So number of days would be nothing but total quantity 19000 divided by quantity produced in 1 day, that is 950, and if you cancel it out, we'll get the value of 20 as the correct answer. So option number C here is going to be the correct option. Okay. So moving on, question number 9. This is also an easy question. In order to solve this question, we might to need just draw a basic diagram just to get the wind of the situation. So I'm reading it. A and B are two heavy steel blocks. If B is placed on the top of A, the weight increases by 60%. Then how much? So okay, let me just draw about this first line. Suppose there is a block A and you are taking its weight comes out to be A simply. Okay. Then you are doing what? You are placing another block B on the top of it, and now the weight is increasing by how much? 60%. So if there is a 60% increase, how do you represent that? You represent that by multiplying with 1.6, right? So here we will have the total weight of the two blocks as 1.6 times A. This is the total weight mass of A and B both. And now what you are doing is that now we'll read the second part of the question. How much weight will reduce with respect to the total weight of A and B if B is removed from the top of A? So if you remove B again from the top, how much weight will be left? Only A will be left again. And how much is the weight of A? It is simply A. Now what is the percentage reduction in the weight with respect to the total weight? So we have to find the percentage reduction. Initially the weight was this. So percentage reduction or percentage decrease, both are the same things, is nothing but the decrease amount divided by original amount into 100. What is the decrease? Initially it was 1.6. Now it is only 1.6A. Now it is only A. So we'll write 1.6A minus A divided by the total amount. Total amount is nothing but A plus B. That would be 1.6A into 100. That is what we have to find out. If we subtract this, out of this we will get something like this. We will get the value 0.6A upon 1.6A into 100. One good thing is there that you can cancel out this A from the top and bottom, and you have to find the value of this expression, which I am doing here. So we will have 0.6 upon 1.6. We are getting rid of the decimal on both sides. Here both of them you will get 10 multiplied by 100. Overall the value you will get would be how much? That would be, let me just simplify it, 6 by 16 into 100. Here it goes 4 times, 5 times. Here we have 3, here we have 2. Overall we get 75 upon 2. That is 37.5% as the correct answer. So option number D here would be the correct option. Okay, so in this question, in order to just understand it, we might need to draw a basic diagram. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part, the next question, and just read it. It is a very good question. It is very recently asked, just in 2022. So just pay attention, give it a good read. So I think you might have given enough time to this. This one has a lot of information which we have to find out. So okay, what is the scenario here? There is some election going on, and in this election there are two candidates, X and Y. Okay, 80% of the voters are casting their vote. So there is something called voter turnout. Overall there will be how much? There will be, suppose, so many voters. out of them, all voters will not definitely vote, only some of them will vote. So that thing is called voter turnout. Okay. So here the voter turnout in this particular election is 80%. And one thing is there is no invalid vote, there is no concept of nota or none of the above. So all are the votes are valid and they can only go either to candidate X or to candidate Y. There is no concept of nota here. Then another information says X got 56% of the votes and he won by 1440 votes. So what is the total number of voters in the voters list? That is being asked. Now, just follow the process which I am going to do here. You will be very good to go. So here we have, let's say, total number of voters as T. Out of this total voters, not everyone is voting, but only 80% are voting, right? So number of votes will be how much? 80% of T. That is nothing but simply 0.8 times T, right? These are the total number of votes. Now, candidate X got 56% of the votes. And if candidate X is getting 56% of the votes, can anyone tell what is going to be the number of the percentage of votes won by Y? They will be definitely 100 minus 56, that is 44% votes, right? Now, what is the total number of votes? Be careful, total number of votes is not T, it is 0.8 T. This is the total number of voters. Out of them, only 80% voted. So this is the total number of votes. Okay. So now, if X is getting 56% of the votes, he is actually getting 56% of 0.8 T, not T, but 0.8 T. And it will become 0.56 into 0.8 T, right? He is getting 44% of the votes, which means 44% of 0.8 T, which would be nothing but 0.44 into 0.8 T. Okay? That is the thing. So you have votes of X also and votes of Y. One more information is given to you, and that information says candidate X has won by 1440. Candidate X is winning by 1440 votes. What on earth does that mean? That means, sir, that the votes of X minus votes of Y is 1440. He is getting 1440 votes more than Y is the essence of this particular statement. Won by 1440 votes basically means X is getting 1440 marks more than Y, or X minus Y is 1440. That is the simple equation which you can, actually derive from this part here. Now what we have to do, we have the value of X also, we have the value of Y also. We have to just put these values here and get the value of T to solve the question, because ultimately it is T, the total number of voters in the voters list, that we have to find. We'll simply go through that method. So let me just create some space here so that we can calculate. I'm erasing this part. What we have to do is that X minus Y is 1440. What is the value of X? It is 0.56 into 0.8 T minus what is the value of Y? 0.44 into 0.8 T, and this subtraction is equal to 1440. What I can do here is that I can take this part and this part common in both. So I'll get 0.8 T common. Here we'll have 0.56 minus 0.44 is equal to 1440. And on further simplification of this part, you will get 0.80 into 0.12 is equal to 1440. Here we have to just cross multiply these two values and we'll get the value of t. Not that difficult. Let me just do that for you also. So we'll get the value of t as nothing but 1440 divided by 0.12 to 0.8. We'll just get rid of these decimals. We get 110 here. Cancel out the values. Overall, after total cancellation, you might get the value of t to be how much? 15,000. And that is option number A is going to be the correct option here. Okay, so that was a really good question and so fresh. So you might expect something similar very soon. Might be this year also. So that was the question. And now we'll move on to the next part of the question. So this is question number 11. Let us read it. So there is a class in which 60% students are from India. So in this class, suppose this is the class, and if 60% are from India, then what the other 40% are? They will definitely be who? They will be foreigners. It is written here in the second part. So the remaining 40% are foreigners. This might be the schools for the diplomatic people, their children, diplomatic people's children. And so we have 50% of the students are girls. So out of this whole class, 50% are girls. So what does that mean? If 50% are girls and if we assume a gender binary system, then the remaining 50% are going to be boys definitely. This is the thing. And now after this classification, he says if 30% of the Indian students are girls, then what percentage of foreign students are boys? So he is giving you one information and it is asking from you another information. So what we can do is that we can assume some number of the students. We can assume here the total number of students to be 100, right? And if total students are 100, Indian students are going to be how much? 60% of 100, that is basically 60 students are Indian, and therefore remaining 40 students will be foreigners. Similarly, 50% are girls and boys, so 50 students are girls and 50 are boys. That is the thing which we have now. After doing this assumption, we'll look back to the question again. 30% of Indian students are girls. Let me write that for you. So 30% of Indian students are girls. So what is the total number of Indian students? It is 60. Okay, and out of them 30% are girls, which will mean the remaining 70% will be boys. Okay, so if 30% of these Indian students are girls, so 60 into 30%, it is going to be 30% of 60, which can be written as 0.3 into 60, which would be nothing but 18. So we can say the number of Indian girls, let's call them IG, is going to be 18. And if total Indian students are 60, so the number of boys is going to be how much? 60 minus 18, that is 42. So the number of Indian boys, let's call them IB, is going to be 42. Correct? So this is something which we figured out from this part of the question, right? So if 30% of Indian students are girls. So out of the 60 which are Indian, 30% are girls, that is 18 are girls. IGR is equal to 18. So the remaining would be how much? Boys. So 60 minus 18, that is 42, would be boys. I am calling them IB, Indian boys. Now what we have to find out is that what is the percentage of foreign students are boys. So what are the total number of foreign students? They are 40. What about foreign boys? Let's call them FB. What is the number of FB? First we have to find out this value. So here you can see the total number of boys is 50. Out of these 50 boys, the Indian boys are 42. So if we subtract this 42, you get the number of foreign boys, that is nothing but 8. So in this class, there are 8 boys studying which are from a foreign country. Okay, so we have this number of FB. What is being asked? What percentage of foreign students are boys? So here to get this percentage, what we have to do? We have to do just one thing, and that is this percentage is nothing but number of foreign boys divided by total foreign students into 100. So how much percentage of the total foreign students are boys? That we have to find out. These boys are 8. Total foreign students, as we assumed, were 40 into 100. After all simplification and cancellation, we'll get this value to be how much? 20%. So out of the total foreign students, 20% are going to be boys. Okay. So is that clear to you? It was a good question because a lot of information is there. The only thing you have to do is to pick that part of the information which can help you to reach up to your final solution. Okay. So this was a good question, and now we'll move on to the next part. To read this question, it is very easy. Just a lot of language here, so I'm ensuring that you are well versed with the language of the question, because it is more of a language question than a calculation question. Okay, so there is a guy called Raju, and he is having rupees 9,000 with him, and he wants to buy a mobile, but he finds that he has only 75% of the amount required to buy the mobile phone. So what he does, he borrows rupees 2,000 from his friend. Now it is being asked, he does not have enough money, he does have just enough money, he has more money, 500 more and 1,000 more. These are the 4 options he is talking about. So basic idea of the question is, when you understand the question, it says a person is going to purchase mobile, he does not have enough money, and now he borrows, and now after this borrowing, is he able to purchase the phone, or he has less money, or he has more money, is being asked. Okay. So here 75% of the required amount is only 9,000 which he has. So let us try to find out, or try to figure out what is the amount of the handset, what the price of the handset. So let the price of the handset be rupees P. Right. Now it says that he has this amount which is 9,000, and that 9,000 is only 75% of the required amount. So he requires actually P amount. The amount he has is only 75% of P, and that amount is actually 9,000. So here we have 0.75 P is 9,000. You can just send this in cross multiplication. You will get P is 9,000 upon 0.75. Get rid of the decimals. And ultimately the price you get is rupees 12,000. Okay. So this is going to be the price of the mobile handset which he wants to purchase. Now, since he was having less money, rupees 9,000 only, he borrowed 2,000 more. So how much money does he have now? So he has 9,000 and 2,000 which he borrowed. So now he has rupees 11,000 with him. So is this amount sufficient to purchase this? It is your call. Can you tell me which is going to be the correct option? Yeah, definitely it is going to be option number A, that is Raju still does not have enough money to buy the handset and he is rupees 1000 short actually. Okay, so this was the question number 12. Moving on, so let us have a look at this question. You should read it once, and reading this question will remind you of one thing you might have studied in GS, so I'll tell that also, that giveaway, but please read it first. It is a long question. Okay, so here you are given the expenditure pattern of two families, okay, in the form of this diagram, and we have to give some conclusions from based on this information. So you might have studied somewhere in the GS that the poor families have to actually spend more, more part of their income on basic things. So if you look at this family A, it is actually having rupees 20,000 per month as the income, but they have to spend a large chunk of their money, 50% of their total income, on food. On the contrary, we have a family B which is earning rupees 1 lakh per month, so it is a richer family, and it is spending only 10% of its total amount on food. So that is the basic GS concept. Nothing much important here, just I am telling for your information. But now let's come to the mathematical part of it. So the proportion of expenditure of these two families is given to us, and the total expenditure or the total income is given to us. So now we have to conclude that how much amount they spent on food. It is being asked that we have to talk about food only. We have nothing to bother about the remaining parts. We have to just concentrate ourselves on this food part. Now let us talk about family A. Family A is spending how much? 50% of their total expenditure on food. So they have 50% of this amount, which is 20,000, which is nothing but 0.5 into 20,000. That is going to be 10,000 as expenditure of family A. So let me write it here. The expenditure is rupees 10,000. Let us talk about family B then. So if we talk about family B, they are spending actually 10% of their total expenditure on food, and total expenditure is 1 lakh. And so it is going to be 0.1 into 1 lakh. That is again going to be rupees 10,000. So this family is also spending rupees 10,000. So both of the families spend an equal amount. The only difference is that a major chunk of their expenditure goes on food. However, here only 10% of their expenditure goes on food. Okay, so actually they are spending, same amount. So family A and family B spend same amount on food. So option number C is going to be correct option in this case. Okay. Now we have question number 14. Quite easy question. So again here the concept of less than, more than, that will be applied. So two numbers X and Y are 20% and 28% less than a third number Z. So if we talk about X, X is actually how much? It is 20% less than Z. So it is just 1 minus 0.2. That is 0.8 times of Z. Okay. If we talk about Y, Y is 28% less. How can we represent that? We can represent it like this: 1 minus 0.28, that is going to be 0.7. So that would be Y equal to 0.72. Okay, these are the values of X and Y in terms of Z. by what percentage is the number y less than the number x. So we have to find out that how much is y less than x. In order to find the value, we have to actually first find the difference, that is how much less it is. So we have to find the difference of x minus y divided by the original value of x, because since we are comparing with respect to x, so why we are comparing with respect to x, that it is how much less or how much more than x. So in the denominator will be there x into 100. All right. So how much the difference is going to be? Here the difference is going to be x is 0.8z minus y is 0.72z divided by x, which is 0.8z into 100. If you subtract both of these, you will get 0.8 minus 0.72. This is going to be 0.08. Okay, be careful with the decimal calculation. Divided by 0.8z into 100. Now, if we cancel out both these things, get rid of the decimals, overall value you are going to get is 10%. Is it all right? So the correct answer is going to be option number B, that is 10%. So that was one more question for you based on almost similar premise, the basic concept which we have studied. And so these are the basic things which you must be clear with. Okay, and we are approaching this topic in such a way that we are wasting no much time. This question is so much easy in calculation, nothing to do much once you have done this in the beginning. And that is the way in which we approach things in our institution in Sunya IAS. And so we have this question, really a fresh question we have here. In 2022 it just came. So what does it say? When 70% of a number x is added to another number y, the sum becomes 165% of the value of y. So if 70% of x is added to y, the sum is equal to 165% of y. How do we represent 70%? Just divided by 100, we get 0.7 into x plus y is equal to how much? So 165% would be nothing but 165 divided by 100, that would be 1.65 times. Just send this y on that side, subtract it, you will get 0.7x equal to 0.65y, or you can write x upon y is 0.65 upon 0.7. Okay, on further simplification we can also write like this, 65 upon 70. Same thing, just multiplying top and bottom with the 100 to get this one relation. Let me just write it down on the top. X by y is nothing but 0.65 divided by 0.7. Okay, now we'll move on to the second part of the question. So I'll erase it and we have to do a similar calculation again. So here 60% of a number x is added to another number z. So now we are adding 60% of x to z and the sum becomes 165% of z. So here again we are having the equation 0.6x plus z is equal to 1.65 times z. Send z to that side, you will get 0.6x is equal to 0.65 z, or on cross multiplication you will get x upon z is equal to nothing but 0.65 upon 0.6, and you can also simplify the values in terms of 65 by 60. So we get one more relation between x and z, and from here you are getting the value x upon z is nothing but 0.65 upon 0.6. Is it okay? Now what we have to do is that we have to actually tell the order of x, y and z, which is greater, which is smaller. This is what we have to answer in this particular question. So this might seem to you just off the track as compared to the previous question. You might think that, oh, it is just different. We have to find which one is greater, which one is smaller. How can we do that? We can do that very simply. If you pay some attention here, you will find that here in this ratio, x is numerator. Here also the numerator is 0.65. Here the value of x is there in the numerator, and here 0.65 is in the numerator. So one can assume that x might be equal to 5. What I am saying is a shortcut method to deal with the problem. So we can say x might be equal to 0.65. It can be any multiple of 0.65 also. It can have any value, but now for the case here, let us assume it to be 0.65. Now if that is the case, we can say y is equal to 0.7 and then z is equal to 0.6. So if we have this basic understanding from that part, if we take out this basic information from there, one can easily say that z is the smallest, then there is x, and then there is y. So we have 0.6 greater than 0.65, then we have 0.7. That is going to be the basic order. That is option number A would be correct. What we can also understand is that, let me just clear it up. If x by y is 0.65 upon 0.70, one can say that here the numerator is actually less than the denominator. Okay, so this fraction is what? Less than 1. We call such fractions proper fractions which are less than 1. So here if we know that x upon y is less than 1, we can also conclude by cross multiplication that x is less than y. Similarly, if we have another value which says x upon z is 0.65 upon 0.60, here you can see that the numerator is actually greater than the denominator, and therefore this fraction is going to be greater than 1. We call such fractions as improper fractions which are greater than 1, such as we have 4 by 3, 5 by 4, 7 by 6. These all are fractions which are improper in nature. Okay, so here you can say that x by z is greater than 1, or you can say x is actually greater than z. This is one more thing which you can figure out. So if x is less than y and if x is greater than z, you will have this answer. This is the longer way of doing things. I showed you the smaller way also, the longer way also. So these are the basics which we are covering in our courses. I will not go into much detail, but I think the idea is sufficient for this part. Now we'll move on to the last question of this particular session, and then we'll meet with more percentage questions in the next session. So now just pay some attention here. So as a result of 25% hike in the price of rice, a person is able to purchase 6 kg less rice for this amount than what was the original price of the rice. Okay, so the basic idea here is that due to inflation the price of rice has increased. Earlier you are purchasing some amount x with this rupees 1200, but now due to inflation, due to increase in price, you can only purchase 6 kg less. So what is going to be the original price which was earlier before this increase? So in this question, one basic thing which we have to understand is that there is one concept which says that the expenditure is nothing but price into quantity. Suppose he is purchasing 10 kgs of rice and the price of 10 kg is price of per kg is rupees 60. So overall expenditure would be how much? 60 into 10, that is 600 rupees. That is the basic idea I am telling you. Here let's say the initial price was rupees p and the quantity he was purchasing was x kilograms. So rupees p per kilogram, and the quantity here is x kilogram. And how much money he had to spend? He had to spend only rupees 1200. But now the price has increased, that is, it has increased by 25%. So you will say the new price is nothing but P into 1.25. So I have directly multiplied with 1.25, which is signifying nothing but a 25% increase. Now he is able to purchase how much quantity? 6 kg less. So instead of X, he is able to purchase only X minus 6 kilograms of rice. And the expenditure is still the same, 1200. So we have got two equations. First equation says 1200 is equal to P into X. The second equation says 1200 is equal to 1.25 P into X minus 6. Okay. In order to solve these equations and get the final price, final quantity, what we have to do? In calculation part, we have to just divide these equations. So if we divide these equations, this part will cancel out and you will get actually 1 is equal to Px upon 1.25 P into X minus 6. Cancel P also, send this into cross multiplication, you will get 1.25 X, 1.25 times X minus 6 is equal to X. On multiplication here you will get 1.25X minus 7.5. So 6 multiplied by 1.25 is 7.5 is equal to X. Ultimately we will get the value of X to be 7.5 divided by 0.25, and that will be equal to 30. This quantity is actually 30 kg. Pay attention here, we have actually founded the value of X. Okay, there is one decoy here, 30, which is not the correct answer, because this 30 is not the price, this is the quantity X, so we are getting the value of quantity. What you have to find is the price. So 1200 is P into X. X is what? It is 30 kg, so price is going to be 1200 upon 30, that is 40 rupees. The price is going to be rupees 40, and option number B is going to be the correct option here. So in this particular question, one concept which we would have applied is this one. Okay, expenditure is nothing but price into quantity. If you are good with this and if you know this, because these are the things you do not get everywhere, these are the very basics which we cover exhaustively, and so if you are able to get this part, the question ahead is just a cakewalk, nothing else. Okay, so I think that was the last question, and thank you so much guys, and I hope these sessions are going to help you a lot with your CSAT, and as a lovely warning I would like to say, visit CSAT before CSAT visits you. Thank you.